Hey guys, welcome back to the Eaton Homestead. My name is Danielle. I'm reshooting this intro for the second time because the lighting was so bad the first time. I am shooting this 13 random facts that you maybe didn't know about me so that you can get to know me a little bit more, and I'd love to get to know you a little bit more as well. So let's get started. Fact number one, I am a first-time, full-time, stay-at-home homeschool parent. I have always admired homeschooling families and thought that it was amazing, but just did not have the courage to take the leap. I felt like I was not equipped to be a teacher. I felt like I couldn't do it, that I didn't have enough patience. But this year, with the virus that shall not be named, it sort of gave me the push that I needed to really just take the jump and be brave and go ahead and go for it. It's hard a lot of days and we're still figuring it out. I worked for 10 years in marketing and public relations. It's what I earned my degree in college, and really enjoyed my career. I did a lot of really amazing, fun, creative things and worked with some pretty awesome people. So leaving the workforce was not an easy decision to make. It was a decision that I felt like was best for my family. And so we went ahead and we went for it, and we're learning all kinds of stuff. You may have noticed in my garden tours during the summer when it's hot outside and I'm wearing a tank top that I do have tattoos. I have a couple of tattoos. This one on my shoulder is actually a sibling tattoo. My brother and sister and I all got it. I have the sun colored in, my brother has the moon colored in, and my sister has the star colored in. So it's just kind of like a neat little thing for us to do together that symbolizes our sibling bond. I also have a pink ribbon on my side for my mom, who is a breast cancer survivor. And that's kind of a funny story because that was my very first tattoo and I hate it. It looks awful. I need to have it redone or touched up in some way. The shop that I went to, I just went there because a friend recommended it, but when I walked in and showed the guy the picture of the ribbon that I want, it's a pink ribbon and the whole of the ribbon is in a heart shape. He looked at it and I don't know, he was just very gruff and like kind of rude. And he went, "Is that some kind of like awareness ribbon or something?" And I was just blown away that like, who doesn't know what a pink ribbon stands for? And I don't know, he was just kind of mean and rude the whole time. Like he was bothered by like this, you know, he's this big burly tattoo guy and he's doing a pink ribbon, and like how lame is that, was the vibe that I got from him for sure, which was frustrating because obviously it's for a reason. And I mean, obviously I'm touched by cancer in some way. You think that you would be a little bit more sympathetic to that, but it was like a horrible first tattoo experience, but I still loved getting a tattoo and I'm still very addicted to them. I have more plans to get more in the future. I've always wanted to get my favorite Bible verse, which is Matthew 10:30, and it says something along the lines of, and even the hairs on your head have been counted. I've always really loved that Bible verse just because it makes me feel, and it reminds me that, you know, each and every one of us are so special and so unique in God's eyes that He knows exactly how many hairs are on each of our heads. And like, I just lost like 50 strands of hair showering this morning and brushing my hair. So how could He possibly keep track of that for every human on earth? But He's God, so He can. Just to remember like how special and unique you are and how important you are to God and to this world, this earth. It's just a verse that I've always really, really loved. And I've always wanted to get it like right on my neck along my hairline, because it's about how many hairs are on your head. But truth be told, I am still kind of a chicken about getting tattoos where people can see them. This was my biggest step. I mean, this one is always hidden. It's much more personal anyways. So it was for me, it was not to like show off. But this one, you know, at least I felt like, well, I can cover it up if I'm going to work or, you know, wanting to keep it a secret. I don't know why we have to keep them a secret anymore. So I don't know, we'll see if I ever get that one. And then I also want to get something floral, like, I don't know if I want to do like a sleeve or something, but something big and colorful. And what I want to do is get the flowers that are, you know, have symbolism for me in my life. So things like a sunflower, which has just always been, a favorite flower of mine. I carried sunflowers at my wedding. I always grow them. I always plant them. I just love them and think they're so bright and cheerful. And then my children's birth flowers. My daughter Amelia is born in April, and that is a daisy. And my son is born in August, and there was a couple different flowers that I found, but one of them was a poppy. And I just think that the contrast between like a delicate white daisy and a bright red poppy would look really cool, and also has some symbolism for my children as well and their personalities and how I see them. So I don't know, that's just something that I've been throwing around in my mind for a long time, and someday I'll get around to getting someone to draw it up for me and make a beautiful design that I can add to my body. I love coffee. I need coffee every day of my life, at least a few cups of coffee. However, I am not a coffee snob. I am whatever the opposite of that is. I'm like a coffee redneck, a coffee hick, a coffee simpleton, I don't know. I don't know if it's something to do with New England, being raised on Dunks. We are very Dunkin' Donuts focused, and I have to drink my coffee iced all the time. Even though I live up here in the frigid north and it's cold like at least 6 months out of the year, even when it's freezing cold outside, I like my coffee iced. So I always keep a big mason jar of real nothing special coffee, like Mr. Coffee Maker coffee, in my fridge at all times so that I can throw together an iced coffee anytime I want. Another fact about me, I am not a real Mainer. I was born in Massachusetts. My mom's family is from Lynn and my dad's family is from Salem, Mass. And we moved up here to Maine when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So I will never technically be a real Mainer, because up here in Maine, you are only a real true Mainer if you were born here. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a Mainer through and through. I love Maine. It's all I can really remember. I remember a little bit of living in Massachusetts, but not a whole lot. And it's my home. It's the state that I love and that I love to live in and homestead in. As I mentioned earlier with the tattoo, I am the oldest of 3 children. I have a younger brother named Jake and a younger sister named Michelle. And that probably says a lot about my personality and my personality type. I am definitely the oldest child personality. Fun fact also, Nate is also the oldest of 3 children. He has a younger sister and a younger brother. So we are both oldest children, and sometimes that can get kind of interesting. If you've ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality test, my personality is an INTJ, which is actually pretty rare for a woman. They say, I don't know. When it comes to the introvert extrovert, I am fiercely introverted. I've done this test a few times for different positions that I've worked in for jobs and leadership training programs that I've done. And, when you do it, they'll sort of show you that it's not just, are you an extrovert or an introvert, but there's sort of a scale of it. And every time I've done it, I am like the farthest person over on the introvert side. It's a misconception, I think, that introverts don't like people or don't like being around people. I love people. I love being around people. Relationship is the most important thing in my life. But it's whether or not being around people gives you energy or takes energy away is really what the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is. And in that sense, I am very introverted. It takes a lot of energy for me to be social. I love being social, but it does drain me. And I really, really value my true alone time, which is something that I'm struggling with right now as a homeschool mom, because you are never truly alone. Even if I get a chance, at night to take a shower by myself and Nate's watching the kids, it's just not quite the same as actually being alone. In my working days, I used to have to commute about 45 minutes each way to work. And I never really hated the commute because I really liked the alone time. And I actually would drive in silence a lot, which a lot of my coworkers thought was like sociopathic tendencies or something. But I just enjoy the silence. I like to be alone with my own thoughts. I feel more grounded and more centered and just have better clarity when I have some of that time. And that is very few and far between opportunities to be that way when you are staying at home with your little ones full time, but we're making it work and I'm figuring it out. But it's one of those things that's a huge part of my personality and who I am, is just I'm very quiet and shy and introverted. Okay, this one is almost a little bit embarrassing, but I was a model for a time when I was in college. I went to Suffolk University in Boston, really loved living that city life, and I thought that I would get into modeling, and I did for a time, and it was really fun. I don't regret it by any means. I can remember calling my mom and telling my mom about the opportunity, and she said, you got to do it. You have to do it because you'll regret not trying it. And so I'm still really glad that I did and that I tried it out, because I learned that it was not for me. It was not the life for me. After one of my first shoots, they make you try like a whole bunch of different styles and stuff to sort of see what style is yours. If you're more like high fashion or more commercial, they have you, try all the different styles of things. And part of that is doing like a bikini, like a bathing suit shoot. And as much as I have always been like fairly thin, not anymore, but I used to be fairly thin. I've never been like fit or in shape by any means. And my mother and I were sitting down with the modeling agency and they were going over my photos, and he got to the bikini pictures, and he was like, well, it's pretty apparent you're never going to be a bathing suit model. And my mom was like horrified, like thinking, what is this going to do to my psyche? And I really just left there being like, okay, then I guess I won't. And my mom was telling me later that, we left that meeting and she was like getting in the car to drive away, so terrified of like what I was getting into. And I turned to her and said, I'm really hungry. Can we get a cheeseburger? And her worries all melted away. So, I was still able to stay pretty resolved in who I am and, not get too sucked into it. But it is something that I did for a while, and it was really fun. I also had the opportunity to be in a movie. So it fulfilled my little actor heart and was just something that's kind of fun to share that I got to do when I was in college and will never do again. Along those lines, and mentioning my happy little actor heart, I love the theater. I unashamedly love musical theater. I've been doing theater, amateur, community theater, since I was little, since I was probably about 9 years old, and it's still just a love and a passion of mine. I love bringing stories to life on stage, all of it, the singing, the dancing, the acting. I've done serious roles. I've done, the goofy musical roles, and I don't care. I just love it all. I love the way it makes me feel. I love live performance. I just think there's nothing like it in the world. Going through this virus that shall not be named has been super hard because we can't get together and perform in real life, and audiences can't sit side by side in a crowded theater and watch a show that actors and musicians and stage managers and directors and the whole team has been working for weeks to put together. And it's been really hard. I'm getting to a point now where I'm like really, really missing it. And I don't know. It's just my creative outlet that kind of feeds my soul. You also might think that it's a little bit weird for an introvert to love singing and dancing on the stage in front of hundreds of people. But you'd be surprised to know that actually a lot of actors and theater people in general tend to be very introverted. I don't know why. It's not so much about the spotlight and the attention. It's expression, and being able to tell a story, I think, is what's really just so fun about it. I have had the same best friend since kindergarten. It was in my adulthood that I really realized that it's very, very rare for someone to have a friend, let alone a best friend, for that long. Like I said, I moved to Maine when I was little, so my parents didn't know a whole lot of people around here. And when I got on the bus for my first day of kindergarten at Catholic school, I got on the bus and the bus drove down my road and down to the other end of my road, picked up this little girl, and this little girl walked right onto the bus, marched right up to me, sat down in the seat next to me and said, "Hi, my name's Kate. What's yours?" And I said, "Danielle." And she said, "Do you want to be best friends?" I was like, "Okay." And we've been best friends ever since. We got off the bus that first day of kindergarten, and she walked us right up to our new kindergarten teacher and said, "Hi, Mrs. Slonina. My name is Kate. This is Danielle, and we're best friends." And it's just been that way ever since. We've certainly had our ups and downs. We have fought hundreds of times. We've been through all of life's joys and pains together. It's just one of those amazing blessings that I now realize is really, really rare and really, really special, and she is a huge part of my life. I am a huge animal lover. We have a dog named Luna. This is Leo, our cat. We have our chickens. I think it's part of why I am so excited about getting goats. I just have always really, really loved animals. Even though we homestead and, we certainly have raised chickens for food before, I have such a deep love and respect for animals and love having them around. I love serving them, even the chickens that we raise for meat that I'm slogging water and food out to every day. It feels like a service to them. I feel that I'm taking care of them and that I am in service to them. I just have always really, really loved animals. I think that's why my little brother became a veterinarian. It runs in our family and our genes, and I just can't imagine having life without animals around. Kitty, kitty. So how my husband Nate and I met is a pretty funny story. He and I had sort of been around in the same circles for a long time. As I mentioned earlier, I met my best friend Kate in kindergarten. We went through all of elementary and middle school together, and when it came to high school, she went to her local public high school, and I went on to Catholic high school. And so we had different circles of friends. When it came to high school, we always stayed friends, but we made new friends at our new schools. And she met her husband right away. They have been together since they were like 14 years old. And my husband, Nate, now was really good friends with her husband. And so they sort of were always around the same circles, but for some reason, I just never met him. We joke all the time. I joke all the time that it's probably a really good thing that we didn't meet in high school, because I don't think that we would have really gotten along. I think we were such different people then than we were, 4 or 5 years later once college came around. So once college came around, I was home for the summer in between freshman and sophomore year. And I had actually been working all night, I think. And Kate had called me to say that her boyfriend, Jason, was having some friends over, and they were having a fire in the backyard, and, it was just like guy talk, and she didn't have anybody to hang out with. She was really bored, and could I come over after work? So after my shift of waitressing at the hotel, I headed over there, and I'm like all greasy and gross, because waitressing, you're like sweaty and you smell like fried food. And I walked, out to behind Jason's house, and the boys were all sitting around the fire. And Kate was there, and, I just said hi, and Jason was introducing me to all of his friends that were sitting around, because I didn't know who most of them were. They all, were friends from the public school. And he, was like saying, and this is so-and-so, and this is so-and-so. And then he got to Nate, and he said, and this is Nate. And I turned and looked at him, and Nate's face was just, his eyes were like wide open, and his mouth was open, like, he just was staring at me, and I was like, hello. And he just said hi. And that was how we met. And I just thought he was adorable. And we, chatted a little bit that night, and I really had to be pretty forceful with him. I had to be like, let's hang out and, really push the issue. Cause he's, if you think I'm quiet and shy, he is quiet and shy, but he is as extroverted comes. He loves to be around people. If we go to a party, I have to say we are leaving at this time, because he will just talk all night long. He loves it. He loves talking to people. But at first, when you first meet him, he is very, very quiet. So I really kind of had to I had to invite myself to his family's camp and really insert myself to get to know him better. We ended up going to his family's camp the next day. with Kate and Jason, and we went out on his boat and just hung out on the lake all day. And same thing. He like barely said 2 words the entire time. I chattered nervously the entire time. And after we left, I said to Kate, he doesn't like me. Like, that was awkward, and I'm weird and awkward, and I couldn't stop talking, and he didn't say anything. And, you know, thankfully she was like, no, no, no. And she helped to kind of keep things moving between us. And the rest, as they say, is history. I am watching my daughter and my niece outside playing right now. 2 of the chickens have jumped out of the coop, and they are running around chasing these roosters. It's pretty hilarious, and also appropriate, because this fact about me is that I actually never really dreamed or hoped or wanted to live this lifestyle, to live a homesteading kind of lifestyle. I went to college in the city. I thought that I would live in the city, you know, be some corporate ladder climbing, you know, CEO by the time I'm 35, executive, professional. It was all that I could think about. I you know, wanted to be working in an advertising agency, like some big, huge advertising agency with, you know, big name clients. And I thought I'd be wearing high-heeled shoes and power suits and have designer handbags. And then I met Nate and realized just how much I really do love Maine and how much I love a more simple rural lifestyle. The things that are important became more clear, especially after my mom got sick. I was thankful to only be in Boston and only be a few hours away and not like across the country, so I was able to come home a lot. And then when Nate and I started our relationship, you know, we would see each other like every other weekend, and every other weekend we would take turns, either him coming down to Boston or me coming up to Maine. And it just worked out really well. And I realized that family is what's most important to me. And so my priorities changed. Family became more important, and being closer to family became more important. We live actually right next door to Nate's parents. We live on land that they gave us for our wedding and we built our home on. And, you know, his uncles are right across the street and his cousins right next door. My parents are only about 20 minutes away. It's really nice and really important to us to be able to be around family. As we were building our house, we started calling it the Eaton Homestead, really as a joke, because everybody was like, you're moving out to the country and, you know, you're going to be, before you know it, you're going to have goats and chickens and gardens and the whole thing. And I would just sort of laugh, you know, and brush it off. And we made the Eaton Homestead kind of the joke because we're out here in the country. Slowly but surely, the nostalgia or the joy that comes from simple living started to grow on me. I started to buy books about chickens and dream about getting chickens, and in the past few years have really expanded my gardening knowledge and learned just how rewarding growing your own food is, and how amazing it makes you feel when you can put together a plate of food and everything on it you grew, you cared for in some way or another. The feeling of self-sufficiency, I think, feeds into my like corporate power ego thing. Just being able to take care of myself and knowing that I have the skills to provide for myself makes me feel really, really good, and provide for my family, take care of my children, the whole thing. I just sort of, as time went on, fell more and more in love with a simple life. And so that brings me to my last fact, which is that I am very passionate about living simply, living naturally, living peacefully. I created this channel so that I can share our family's journey into these things with you. When I say those things, it means a lot of different things. It means living simply financially, getting out of debt, not being enslaved to your debt, to money. Taking this leap this year into becoming a full-time homeschool mom was only made possible because Nate and I worked really, really hard to get ourselves out of debt. He and I continue to work hard to provide for our family with his business, our business, and our other investment endeavors. And so I think that's a really huge part of living simply, that we're not just talking about food. We're not just talking about, you know, whole natural ingredients. We're talking about your whole entire life. It spills over into minimalism. I am by no means a minimalist. Some minimalism is a little bit too far for me because I do have a nostalgic side and a sentimental side that likes to keep sentimental things. But just the idea of your spaces being more minimized so that they don't create distractions and you stay focused on what's really important. And, you know, I think that family and God is what's most important. And then, of course, yes, I do also mean food and your lifestyle. Just trying to make earth-conscious choices and trying to do the best that you can for your family. We are in no way ever going to be 100% self-sustainable. We're never going to live off the grid. I just know that we won't. We have made choices along the way, like doing our geothermal heat system, like splitting our own wood to heat our home in the winter, which is long in Maine. The gardening efforts that I put in are for sure for food. Our chickens are there for a purpose. They're there to give us eggs. We do raise meat birds every year. And we're going to be getting into goats. And we're going to be doing that, again, not only because I love animals and I just really want goats, but because they serve a purpose. And that purpose will be to be our dairy animal. So I don't think that we'll ever be 100% self-sustainable on our own, but every little step that we make is one step closer in that direction. I say it all the time. If all you do is get a handful of chickens and collect their eggs, and if you have to stop buying eggs, or if you cut back by 1 dozen a month, you know, like that's 1 dozen less eggs that you bought at the grocery store. And it doesn't feel like a lot when you're just looking at your own life and you're like, what's one dozen eggs? But if we were to look at the bigger picture and everyone were to do that and everyone were to take even just tiny little steps into being more self-sustainable and less reliant on our food systems, which we learned this year are very fragile, it would make a huge impact. It would make a huge impact on the meat, dairy, and agricultural industries. It would be huge just to buy, if everyone were able to buy 1 less dozen eggs a month from the grocery store. That would be a huge, huge, huge impact. But we just need to be inspired to do that. It's hard work. There's moments where you feel like, why am I doing this? It would be much easier to just go to the grocery store. But learning that, you know, living simply sometimes also means working hard. And there's joy to be found in that as well. When you finally crawl into bed after a long day's work and your body aches, but you just feel so gratified, there's nothing really like it. Well, that's been 13 things you maybe didn't know about me. I would really love to hear from you. Please comment down below if we have anything in common, if we're different. I just find that so interesting how different we all are as human beings. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about me. I look forward to getting to know a little bit more about you, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.